Welcome everybody to another episode of the Rebel Crone and another wisdom interview. I have again with me today is the incredible Dr. Maria Zayas, a woman I've known for over 20 years now, and we have quite a profound history together. Really some incredible things, and maybe someday we'll go into some of those a little bit more. But today, really, like I've been thinking of all these topics. Like I want to pick Maria's brain because she's just got this really incredible brain, but incredible mind, which is part of the segue into our topic today. So not only being a doctor and a licensed psychologist, a practicing psychologist, a professor of psychology, she is also a certified heart math practitioner and researcher. She's written a bunch of articles and done some incredible things for the Institute. And that's going to kind of segue into our topic today, because we're talking about just these human vehicles that we incarnate into are very complex mechanisms. You know, beautifully, awe-inspiringly made, I mean, just incredible, but they're complex. And I don't know about you, but part of my journey in this life has been figuring out how to be Elisa and how to be in this body, you know, this female body. And, you know, it's taken me a while to kind of, not that I've nailed it down, but taking me a while to understand, you know, emotions and thinking and all of this complex things going on. So I think it's really important that if we understand, even from just a physiological point of view, is how is this vehicle designed and how does it work? And very specifically today, we want to talk about the heart and the mind connection, because there are our primary, I think, crossover points from invisible things coming into this world, impulses, and into, you know, the physical, and how we can merge those. So let's start, because the Heart Math Institute is phenomenal and the research they do. So for people out there that may not know anything about it, could you give us a little intro into that whole institute?
Oh, absolutely. One of my favorite topics to speak about. So the Institute of Heart Math, or the Heart Math Institute, is a research institute in Northern California, and they have been doing research on the heart, the physical heart, for over 3 decades. They have accumulated an incredible amount of information, and they have also turned that information into ways to help people to have higher functioning, to be happier, to be healthier. It's truly amazing when you start looking at the relationships that they have found between the way our heart works and how everything else in our lives work.
So it's not just, we're not talking about just the blood pumping aspect
Absolutely
of the heart.
Not.
We're talking about a lot more. It's
very complex. like you were saying. So I'll begin with this. The heart is found to be the central organ of our body. It is the organ which pretty much sets the tone for how the rest of our body works. The heart actually emits an electromagnetic field. And this is something that it's not an aura. It's not, you know, something that we're seeing from a spiritual kind of thing. It's not ephemeral. It's actually an electromagnetic current, just like rocks emit, or
that can be measured.
It can be measured, and the instrument that is used to measure them is called a magnetometer. Magnetometer for electromagnetic. So the electromagnetic field of the heart actually looks like a double torus. It's so interesting. It goes from the heart up and out and around and then back up again. It kind of, if we wanted to take a little tangent, we might say it kind of looks like our angel wings.
Oh, I love that. I love it.
So it has been measured to extend 3 feet beyond the exterior of our skin. And so we all have that. All of us have that electromagnetic field. And it's not just, you know, pretty and something that we can think about like angel wings. It actually does something.
Yeah, and you gave a beautiful example last night about walking in a room.
Absolutely.
And how,
Right. So this field contains and conveys information The Institute of Heart Math often refers to it as biorelevant information, meaning something that is relevant to our biological living, functioning, and survival. So this example that Elisa was mentioning is something like this. See if you've ever experienced that. You walk up to a room, say you're going to a party, and you knock on the door and just like you're about to enter, that you haven't heard what's going on in there, or you don't even know who's there, but you start getting this feeling,
maybe like anxious,
like a little anxious, or a little like, I don't know if I want to be there. So from a perspective of information carried in that electromagnetic field, you are now 3 feet probably away from the 3 feet of other people in the room. You are starting to get biorelevant information. And so biorelevant information would include that perhaps there's some tension in the room.
Yeah, and it's a place that's not resonating with you.
Not
maybe
resonating. Maybe
you
it
don't
doesn't
do
feel
drugs.
safe.
Everyone's doing a lot of drugs, and it's kind of crazy. Maybe it's the opposite.
Or maybe you're in an unhappy, mellow mood, and everybody is
hyper.
Right, and it just doesn't feel congruent. And so that gives you very important information about what to do to be comfortable, to be safe. If that doesn't feel safe, it's important to know this is probably not a place I need to be.
Oh, it's like, so that almost, it's like we think there's gut instinct, but there's heart
heart instinct. Absolutely. Sometimes we refer to that as intuition. And there are different levels of intuition, and I won't try to consolidate all of the heart math research into a short conversation, but there is so much to know and to learn. But going back to our topic for today about the relationship between the heart and the mind, I think this is very important for us to understand. So having said that the heart is the central organ that sets the tone for our body, really has many implications. So the heart math folks in their research have found that the heart generates a rhythm in terms of its beats. It's not exactly the beat, and it's a very technical algorithm, so I won't go into that.
Is it like a fingerprint unique to each person, or there's a general, this is a heart?
So there's a range. There's a range, a continuum of how our heart rhythm variability works. A really healthy and well functioning rhythm for our heart. And again, we're not talking about heartbeat. We're talking about the interbeat measures that create a rhythm. So it winds up looking like a nice sine wave. And as opposed to a heart that's not all that what we call coherent. I'll explain more about that in a minute, which could look something like that. So, chaotic. And so I don't have to explain details on that. I think all of us can figure that one out intuitively. Which would you rather be, the nice sine wave or this?
Yeah, we're trying to get off that train. We're trying to get into the even.
Exactly. So that pattern, that nice sine wave, and we can measure it. It's got a range of what defines it as coherent or not, is what determines the functionality of the rest of our body. So we have learned through scientific studies that the heart takes in information through this electromagnetic field. It then sends that information to the brain. It tells the brain, here's what's going on. Everything's cool.
Heads up, or
we can chill out, or hey, something really dangerous is happening. Alert. And then the brain says, oh well, thank you very much for telling me that. And according to what the brain tells the heart will send out information to the organs and the muscles.
So the adrenals, the fight or flight thing,
all of that
gets
kicked in later, and it says, hey, we can chill out. So, bring your nervous system down. You don't have to activate the stress response. Or, whoa, there's a tiger coming at us. We gotta run, or we gotta fight, or we gotta freeze, which are, some of the main responses that we have in our body for dealing with difficult situations. So here's the hitch. if our heart is nicely in a sine wave pattern, it's functioning clearly. It can clearly discern, it can clearly communicate, and it sends intelligent information to the brain. The brain,
we like that.
we like that. The brain then says, "Oh, great! I know exactly what to do. No problem." The boom, 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 boom. Right. However, imagine this scenario: your heart's doing this. It's trying to communicate to the brain,
And the brain's like, what?
You're like,
what's going on?
Do you think that's going to be clear information?
Yeah.
Do you think so? And
Well, it is so fascinating because, like, you have like a situation going on and how people respond so differently to it. And sometimes you look at, like, if you're coming from a balanced place and you look at people and you're like, what
were you thinking?
What are you thinking? Or not, like, what is going on? But they were actually just responding according
to what was going on in their heart field.
Electromagnetic field.
Exactly.
Communication to the heart.
Exactly. And the way their heart was functioning. So the brain got chaotic information. So now the brain has chaotic information. Now it has to send out information. It has to deploy resources. So is it going to send out clear, intelligent information? No. It's going to send out chaotic stuff that feels disorganized.
Especially the one that goes to the tongue.
Yeah. You better zip it at that point.
I'll zip it at that point.
So this is really revolutionary. This, if we understand this, there are so many implications to how
I know, my mind's going off. I'm like, okay, but
so many implications to how this vehicle works and what we need to do to optimize, because that's really one of the things we want to do. You were saying earlier in our conversation prior to this interview that we really don't always know how this vehicle works. Like, what are we supposed to do with this?
Yeah. So I'm very intrigued with this. I'm also intrigued. We may not want to go there today, but the spiritual component with the whole thing, because that's such a huge key with with that information coming in and integrating it, because that's what's actually
that's what's coming.
That's what's coming in to the body. This is the main focal keeping the body alive and going. But let's just go back just to our strict physiology and stuff. So I'm trying to put different things together. So what about, like, when somebody, like, is really, like, how does the mind play if the mind isn't connected to the heart? Or because we're talking about the heart giving false information to the mind.
Correct.
Can that be reversed, and can the mind be kind of running amok without the heart connected?
So all of this is possible.
And more.
We have many ways that our body, our physiology can work, and many ways that it cannot. So to keep it simple and to keep out the spiritual aspect right now, because that does open a whole new topic for conversation. But without that, we have 3 simple things that our body can do. We can think, we can feel, and we can sense through our bodies, right? So if those things are working, we're good.
Yeah.
If those things are not working, we're going to have some issues.
And this is what, because last night I made some little notes here, and you said something about, where was it? Like rampant emotions, like out of control emotions. And there's so much that, I think that's problematic. And a lot of people think that, all right, emotions are like this chaotic, crazy kind of thing because that's what they've seen around them. A lot of times representative, unfortunately, in the female species who tend to be more emotive, and a lot of times reactive emoting, and, uncontrolled emotions. And you can see how some people just tamp it down because it's too, I don't understand it, and I'm just harnessing that baby in there. So let's talk a little bit about, like, because just defining emotions may be a good place to start.
Yeah, that's a little tricky to define emotions.
But let's say coherent and incoherent emotions and where they stem from.
Absolutely. So we have feelings, and feelings and emotions. Some people say there's a difference. I don't know. It's within the feeling realm. Yeah. And we can either have a feeling realm that is coherent or not coherent. So take this for example. We are exposed to let's say it's an annoying person. I don't know. Does that ever happen to you? You ever meet an annoying person?
I probably have been that annoying person from time to time, but yes, okay.
So let's say we have an annoying person that we work with, and there's a particular part in you that is very sensitive to that brand of annoying.
And it's
right?
very irritating.
It's irritating, and it can trigger all kinds of maybe past experiences and memories and maybe even beliefs about that person. And suddenly it's going to get to you emotionally in a place that isn't coherent, that you haven't figured out how to master and manage, and you're going to become dysregulated. So what that means is that oftentimes we just can't regulate and control the way we express our emotions, or if you don't even need to speak them, but the way you express them internally to yourself. You can go into anxiety, you can go into panic, you can go into depression, you can go into feeling threatened. There's so many ways that this could play out if you do not have the developed ability and skill to regulate your emotions. Now, here's how that could go differently. And of course, if we play out that scenario, it usually doesn't go anywhere good.
Yeah.
Right? We could get into an argument, we could have a panic attack, things that are not productive for how we would want to manage our lives. But there is another possibility. Here's another scenario. The annoying person comes
and does their annoying
thing, and we're like, oh gee, that reminds me of
my
Betty
mother
Boop or whatever.
my mom, my dad,
whoever, my uncle George, whoever, and you say, well, that's very interesting information. That reminds me. So I need to actually think about whether this person is causing me any kind of risk or any kind of true impact on my life or not. Is it actually the same as, Uncle George? Or is it just similar and I'm in a very different place now? I don't have to worry about my safety. I don't have to worry about being controlled by, Uncle George. And so I just say, well, that's really interesting. I am going to use this as a learning opportunity.
Yeah, so what this speaks to me, Maria, is just like so often our reaction goes from 0, boom, to 100.
Absolutely.
And we're like quick reacting. Our button gets pushed. I mean, all kinds of things we know in all kinds of different areas of study that we want to start being more proactive as opposed to reactive and all that.
Yeah.
But it's just like this thing that happens quickly where we're slowing that process down so you can actually think about it and go,
about it.
It's not Uncle George.
You can manage it. You can decide intelligently what to do about it in a way that is productive. That is called regulating your emotions, right? As opposed to 0 to 100.
Yeah, it's that old path. It's like an old pathway.
It just gets
zooming down.
It absolutely gets triggered. We don't have a thought that goes into it. It's something automatic, but we can learn to regulate our feelings. I teach in a college, university setting, and often I say to my students, do you have emotions or do your emotions have you?
Oh, I like that.
And
I think one or the other.
we can all identify with a time when our emotions had us. Right? You were out of control with that emotion. It's not a pleasant feeling, is it?
Oh, I just did a video on perimenopausal episodes, and yes, they changed. That's another crossover with hormones. We won't go there today, but yes, we do at different times.
Absolutely.
Experiences.
So that, I think the next question for any of us who are thinking about this is, okay, what do we do? How do we?
And this goes into the heart math stuff.
Absolutely.
Right. That's
exactly right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. So this is a very important piece of research findings here, is that when we have positive emotions like love, appreciation, peace, compassion, our heart has a nice sine pattern rhythm. You're like, oh.
It's a good world.
It's a good world. We feel good. You know, it sends coherent messages to our brain. Our brain says, thank you so
We
much.
can think straight.
We can think straight. I
Process.
can tell the liver what to do now, and it's going to be happy, and we're all going to work together. So we call this combination of interaction between our heart, our brain, our organs, we call that psychophysiological coherence. Psychophysiological coherence.
And you feel that when you come, I'm sorry, but when you come in the presence of somebody.
You do.
Like I talk about coming in the presence of a wise one, the elder that's a wise one, not the old lady, the old man, like the crone and the wise one, the wisdom keepers. You just walk in their presence and you just go like,
right.
You're just like, and they're just there. It's their beingness. It's
Exactly.
just that.
They're coherent.
They're coherent. That's
coherent.
what you're sensing.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting that you should say that, Elisa, because the Heart Math Institute has understood through their research programs that we can be individually coherent. We can also be socially coherent. And then that goes into global coherence.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice.
We all would like that.
We'd all like that right about now.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very helpful to me to think about how that happens through an analogy of tuning forks. So let's say that I'm a tuning fork, right? I'm vibrating at a certain frequency, and it kind of looks like that.
It's a nice coherent
wave. It's a nice coherent pattern. It's a strong and stable wave. The strong and stable wave of the tuning fork tends to set the tone for other tuning forks that come into its vicinity. So let's say an out of control chaotic tuning fork comes into the vicinity, and this is nicely coherent. This is going to start patterning on that coherent tuning fork.
Wow.
This happens with human beings. So have you ever felt bad and you called a friend that you knew would be nice and balanced, and then you felt better?
Yeah.
Right? Because we call that co-regulating.
Oh my God. Which then brings the whole thing of like, why do you call the other friend that's not going to make you feel better? You call the friend that's going to form an agreement and make you and your self-righteousness and your incoherency.
We have patterns and we don't always know how to work with them. We don't have the skills to regulate. We don't understand how this vehicle works or how we work together.
So let's give some practical tips, because we've all been in the place where, we come into the room or somebody comes into our space that's very incoherent, and we let it in and it throws us off. Is it because they have a stronger resonance?
Because we are unstable. So
we're not unstable.
An unstable pattern is
will
weak.
Be imprinted by
weak.
the other.
Yeah, it lets in other patterns that are more stable. And believe it or not, if a person gets into this repetitive pattern, it may be an unstable pattern, but it has some force to it.
Yeah.
So we all know that person, right? Who comes in gangbusters, and unless we are in our space,
chaos ensues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We let it in. We entrain to that. And then we are in the same boat.
Well, we see it on a world stage, don't we?
Absolutely, we do.
And we don't go into all that stuff, but we do see it play out on a world stage.
We do. There are many players that are, bouncing off each other, unstable positions,
but people that are unstable will all start lining up under that.
That's right.
But I think that the big news is our sovereignty and our, that is the good news of it. Nobody can force that on you as a sovereign being. If you're not liking that, then it's a personal journey.
You have a personal choice. I like to say it's a free will planet.
It is a free will planet. Yeah.
So what do we do in a situation like this? Important to know that it takes time to develop a new pattern.
Yes.
Right? We're not suddenly going to have been doing this for 37 years and suddenly you're doing that. It's like going to the gym. It takes more than 5 seconds,
Or the story you walk down the road, there's a big hole in the middle of the road, and you fall in, and then pretty soon you look and you notice it's there, but then you fall in.
And then you eventually go around.
And then you got to go around, and the next time you take a different road.
Exactly.
I'm going a whole new road because that road ain't working for me.
That's right. And it does take practice. It takes awareness. It takes understanding. And so we can change our pattern of coherence. so it's really actually very simple. The HeartMath has developed many different tools to help us do that. But in a kernel, here's the scoop. We begin to generate positive emotions.
Yeah.
We do it maybe in the morning, in the evening. Maybe we do it before we have the encounter with that annoying person that reminds us of Uncle George.
Prepare yourself.
Prepare yourself. And then after that event, we do it again. You know, and we have the positive emotions. We do the rhythmic breathing. You know,
You're just learning how to
you're
self-regulate.
learning how to self-regulate. You're learning how to be coherent in this language that we've been using. And just like going to the gym and working out on a regular basis, you get stronger with it. You get better at it. Your muscles, your heart, which is a muscle, you know, it begins to recognize that new pattern. It begins to use that pattern. If we let go of the old pattern and practice the new pattern, you know, guess what? It changes. That changes the pattern of firing in our brain.
It is, and it's the pre-setting thing, which I really love. That I kind of want to click on right now, because one of the things I've learned in my life, and I've like demonstrated over and over, is like, oh my God, this really works. So let's say in the workplace that, you know, I don't want to go into work because there's that very irritating Uncle George person. And, you know, so I go in and I'm already prepped to be irritated by it. And what happens? They irritate the heck out of me because I prep I'm already like sending that out. And I'm already resonating with that before I get there. Or it's like, okay, I'm not going to let him bother me.
Right.
I'm going to look at
have this positive emotion.
I'm going to have this positive emotion. And actually, so I'm going to walk in. I'm going to be grateful for being in. I'm going to be grateful for this. And I walk in, and you know what? George changes. George is not the jerk that George was. Suddenly George is like, patterning to me.
Exactly.
And is being, you know, I become the control force.
That's right. And we can all do that together and form a coherent community, you know, coherent relationships. And that extends into the world stage. You know, it is not necessary for us to live in conflict. It really isn't.
There's nothing designed in human nature.
No.
In our physical, human nature,
yeah.
human biology that says we are a chaotic, you know, fallen being that's just like, you know, no, we're incredible.
If we know how to use this, you know, there's so much we can do that we don't know how to do many times. So that's really good news. And it has so many implications for how to change our lives. It's entirely within our control. And I do want to stress this, that it is the positive emotions that make the difference. It isn't the thoughts. You know, we can have a million affirmations and it makes no difference at all on our heart pattern.
That is, yes, all the affirmation. I'm going to will. Like if that worked, well, I'm telling you what, the world would, if our minds could just do it, the world would be different.
That's right. I don't know if you remember the Saturday Night Live character of Stuart Smalley. Oh. He always had these great affirmations that he made. It didn't seem to help much.
It didn't seem to help much.
But this works. This does work. You know, there are, in fact, there are some biofeedback-like devices that HeartMath has created that allow us to see our own heart pattern, and we start to recognize that. We start to learn, oh, when I do this, it looks like this. When it looks like this, then I feel like this. If we can see ourselves,
it's self-awareness. It all comes out self-awareness of anything, and you get any sort of path of whether it's spiritual progression or anything, or intellectual pursuit. I mean, it's really emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
It's all about being self-aware and understanding, because it all starts and stops here.
It does.
You know, and so thank you, Marie. That's like so helpful, because I know, you know, a lot of people, and a lot of times with men too, is that they want to be very intellectual about things, and they don't want to think, I don't want to deal with the emotional stuff. And women, you know, the old patterns of they're going to be, or the feminine's emotional, they're not going to.
All old stories.
It's all old stories. Old
we
stories.
all have brains. We all have hearts. We all have thoughts and feelings.
And there's a coherency.
And there is an inherent coherence between them that allows us to function really, really well or really poorly.
Right.
So we need our mind, our thoughts, we need our critical thinking, but it's not the whole story. You know, we really need to have those positive, coherent emotions so that the heart can send clear information to the brain, and the brain can be, you know, the mastermind that it's meant to be.
And the assimilator of things in a balanced way.
And to deploy resources in an effective manner.
Right. Okay, my gosh, I don't know if we should probably end it there. That's been a lot. But there's a part of me that's like, oh, but. But we're going to save the buts. And while Maria's here for the next few days, I'm going to try to squeeze a few more videos out of her. So I think we should wrap that up with today. And I would love to, you actually gave great finishing words, but would you just do another quick summary for us?
Oh, I would love to.
Oh, please.
So here's what I would really like to convey to everyone is we have these fantastic capacities. We are amazing beings in every way. We are built and designed for greatness and victory if we know how to use it. If we try to use a hammer to comb our hair, we're going to have a big headache. Boom, boom. So let's learn how to use our capacities so that we can bring the victorious self that we are through this glorious vehicle, and we can do that together, and we can bring peace and wonder into the world.
The beautiful immortal, within the immortal that embraces us and breathes us into existence, that's what can shine through. That's the ultimate coherence.
That. Absolutely.
Yeah. Amen to that one. So thank you. Once again, I hope you enjoy, everybody, and peace within.